understand just how the health sector has functioned under the county governments, of course, on this series of Matters Devolution right here on the People's Court. It's a pleasure to have you. My name is Linda Alela.
Absolutely. And my name is Victor Muyakane. I'm learning sign language.
What happened to
And Simaloi, I'd like to introduce you to our sign language interpreter. Her name is Catherine Simaloi.
Yeah.
We're trying to be all-inclusive here at TV47, the home of untold stories.
I'll be looking forward to learn from you.
Absolutely. I hope not. It will be a case of the blind leading the blind.
Okay, well, I'll learn from Simalori. Is that better?
All right. Devolution and health.
And the
That's
beauty
our
of
subject.
it is that we have, an audience seated right here with us, and we'll also be having a panelist that will be speaking or will help us decipher in these matters. And of course, this audience has a background on matters health.
Right.
We also have, representatives of Wanjiko, very important.
Right.
Equally, trade unionists are seated right here inside.
In health.
We have a member of parliament.
We do.
Those ones will tell us what they're doing at the level of parliament and making sure that health is a success. And of course, county representatives and equally a former member of the KEMSA board.
Absolutely. And here's how you can take part in this conversation. The SMS lines are open. 2247 is 22047 is the SMS line. You can also tweet us at TV47 News, at George Maringa _ and at Linda _ Alela. And my Twitter handle is without an underscore, Muyakane.
Muyakane only.
Only.
All right, we're looking forward to this discussion and we'd love to hear you engage us. But before it gets to that point, it's important that we get to know what is happening in the world of news.
Absolutely. Over to you, George.
And talking about the news, we have a lot lined up for you tonight. A lot is indeed making the headlines. And here are our top stories. Human rights groups lend credence to allegations by the opposition regarding police brutality.
Tume ya IPOA ifanye uchunguzi kwa njia ya haraka na halali ili wale wanapatikana na hatia waweze kujibu mashtaka haya.
This, as Interior CS Kithure Kindiki refutes the allegations and blames those he says are known architects of the widespread violence witnessed in the country during protests. Azimio leader Raila Odinga blames the government for allegedly stalling bipartisan talks.
The president from Tanzania came here 2 weeks ago at the invitation of President Ruto to mediate, and she was kept waiting.
The former premier revealing that Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu had offered to mediate in the country's political stalemate. And tonight, once again, thank you so much for joining us. That conversation on the People's Court is coming your way. But before then, let's inform you what's making headlines from across the country and beyond. Once again, my name is George Maringa. The call against police brutality is intensifying in the country, with human rights defenders from within and beyond the borders of Kenya calling for sanity in the security sector. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights wants the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, that is IPOA, to find a solution to the escalating police brutality against demonstrators and bring the perpetrators to book.
Kenya National Commission on Human Rights has given credence to the claims made by observers and mainly the opposition on the use of excessive force on protesters by the police. The results of a survey conducted by the Commission reveals that most of the victims of police brutality are the youth aged between 18 and 35 years. Most of the incidents took place in urban centers and mainly in major towns of the counties. In the capital, Nairobi, all the fatal shootings happened in slums. It is from the grim statistics that the Commission has demanded accountability, calling on IPOA to take an immediate action on suspected drug officers.
Tume ya IPOA ifanye uchunguzi kwa njia ya haraka na halali ili wale wanapatikana na hatia waweze kujibu mashtaka haya.
According to Article 37 of the 2010 Constitution, everybody has a right to demonstrate, with the Commission noting that the right has been so far violated.
It was disheartening to to see tear gas lobbed into schools and homes.
The opposition side, led by Raila Amolo Odinga, has on their side condemned the said police brutality, especially in the Nyanza-based regions.
We are witnessing unprecedented police brutality. We are also witnessing an unprecedented phenomenon of the state resorting to armed militia to quell protests.
A separate survey conducted by the Independent Medical Legal Unit revealed that a total of 35 people have been reported dead, with Kisumu topping the list with 12 individuals succumbing to police injuries and live bullets. From the statistics, male victims who succumbed to police brutality is sum up to 94%, causing an outcry from human rights groups. Jackson Chacha, TV47.
A summary.
Thank you, Chacha, for that. Now, the Interior CS, Professor Kithure Kindiki, has this evening strongly denied the allegations of police brutality put forth by human rights groups. According to the CS, the claims of extrajudicial executions and excessive use of force by National Police Service officers and other law enforcement personnel against the public or any section. Now, the CS believes that these allegations are an attempt to misrepresent and manipulate public opinion regarding the recent violent incidents that occurred in certain parts of the country. The CS has pointed an accusing finger to those he says are responsible for masterminding and carrying out heinous crimes that resulted in the death and injury of civilians and law enforcement officers, as well as extensive destruction of both private and public property in the last few weeks. To back the claims, the CS asserts that investigative and intelligence agencies possess substantial evidence in their possession. This evidence, he says, is deemed sufficient to prosecute the key planners, executors, and financiers behind the large-scale arson, violent robberies, destruction of infrastructure, and harm to civilians and security personnel. Kindiki also says that during the past week, authorities successfully intercepted a significant cache of conventional and crude weapons, narcotic drugs, and cash. These items were allegedly en route to fuel the riots that occurred in certain areas of the country. He says that in the coming days, weeks, and months, the masterminds of widespread violence against the people of Kenya, including those associated with the huge consignments of money and weapons which were intercepted on their way to harm the public, have a date with accountability. Indeed, that is the statement by Interior Cabinet Secretary, that is Professor Kithure Kindiki. Now, tonight, new details on how Tanzania President Mama Samia Suluhu Hassan's efforts to mediate on the country's political crisis have emerged. Azimio coalition leader Raila Odinga now claims the Tanzania president, who was in the country 2 weeks ago, was left hanging after President William Ruto snubbed any attempts for 2 days to reconcile him and Odinga. Odinga made the revelations as Kenya Kwanza and Azimio grandstand on the resumption of bipartisan talks continues.
With State House maintaining a studious silence on Tanzania President Samia Suluhu's alleged visit to Kenya 2 weeks ago, to mediate in the country's political crisis, as revealed by Azimio leader Raila Odinga. The Azimio leader has accused President William Ruto of frustrating any efforts to resolve the ongoing political standoff, narrating how the Tanzanian president was kept waiting for 2 days by the president.
The president from Tanzania came here 2 weeks ago at the invitation of President Ruto to mediate, and she was kept waiting, not from our side. We were available, but the other side was not available. She spent 2 nights here, and it was all in vain.
Ahead of Azimio's special vigil on Wednesday to remember victims of last week's deadly protests, President Ruto, according to Odinga, has refused to budge on mediation talks, despite Azimio being willing and ready.
Other people have tried. Right now I know that other people are also trying, but he's the one who's resisting. So he basically knows what he wants. I myself have said I'm ready to sit with other people to discuss these issues. He is actually pretending, is living in delusion that we don't have a crisis.
Suluhu ipatikane, sio suluhu mie, suluhu yenyewe.
Perhaps as a sign of her frustrations with the Kenyan situation, the Tanzania president, in a recent public event, spoke in reference to Kenya's political stability and the war in Sudan, calling for peace and stability in the region.
Sababu ni kwamba kwa jirani kuna waka moto, na mwekezaji hakai kuna kwa waka moto. Wanakimbia wanakuja zao kwenye amani na utulivu. Ni waombe tutunze amani na utulivu tulionao.
Back home, pressure is piling on President Ruto and Odinga to find an amicable solution to the ongoing standoff. Kenya Kwanza has once again extended an olive branch to their Azimio counterparts to resume the bipartisan talks and reconstitute the new IEBC. But Azimio is staying put.
We have always been ready. We are still ready and willing to continue with the talks. So what we are calling upon them, especially, is to proceed from where we stopped. The issue of IEBC remains the most important issue on the agenda.
That my authority as the chair of the bipartisan talks draws from Azimio parliamentary group and its leadership. If I am remandated to re-engage, I will then say so. Until then, I haven't. But the reasons why we suspended the talks, in my opinion, are still sustained.
Apol Kamau, TV47.
Indeed, and we shall be keeping an eye on that story. Now, the National Assembly's Health Committee had a session with the National Health Insurance Fund officers for the purpose of investigating the alleged fraudulent hospital claims and payments. The committee, led by Robert Pukose, sought to know how the operations of NHIF and the amount of money allegedly stolen in those payments.
The spotlight shone on Kuhuria when lawmakers launched a 90-day inquiry into the alleged corruption within NHIF, which came to light after reports of medical fraud in Nairobi and Meru counties surfaced. This was after an expose by the media that 8 medical facilities had reportedly looted millions from the fund, allegedly with the assistance of senior staff.
We are going into liquidation of short-term assets. In that particular year that we are liquidating, we must see the relationship between the liquidation and your collections, because we want to see why was it necessary for us to liquidate 7 billion between 2021 and 2023.
Chair of Kenya Pharmaceutical Distributors Association Kamamia Murichu also praised the CEO, seeking to know why some service providers in hospitals are engaging in fraud by charging high amounts for medicines.
A drug such as a diclofenac, the maximum price it can go is 10 shillings. So that if a patient is given 15 tablets, the maximum it can hit is 150.
The CEO, however, explained to the committee that NHIF had already taken action regarding the 8 health facilities under investigations. Beirut and Amal hospitals in Isli had been established to be among those that had been involved in fraud. Mohamed Abdibare, TV47.
Now, since the devolution of healthcare function more than 10 years ago, the sector has recorded successes and challenges in equal measure. And as our health reporter Zainab Mohammed now tells us, the gains made in the sector are as significant as the challenges faced since the devolution of the function into the 47 equal units. Take a look.
Gifton Mukaya is the current CC for Health in Taita Taveta County. He also held the same position during the first 5 years of devolution. By his reckoning, Taita Taveta's county has recorded significant gains as far as the health sector is concerned. According to Mukaya, Taita Taveta has seen an increase in the number of health facilities and health workers.
Pale maeneo ya Sagala, tulikuwa na health center moja ambayo ilikuwa juu mlimani. Kumaanisha Sagala ile ya chini ingebidi mwananchi atembee apande mlima na kushuka ili aweze kupata hizo huduma.
Furthermore, health indicators such as hospital births and immunization coverage have significantly improved alongside hospital attendance and referral services.
Namba ya kina mama ambao wanajifungulia kwa hospitali chini ya mikono ya wahudumu wa afya imeongezeka. Mwaka wa 2013 tulikuwa tunapata ni kama wa mama 4,500 ambao walikuwa wanajifungulia kwa hospitali. Sasa hiyo namba imeongezeka imefikia karibu 7,000. Tunapoangalia mambo na chanjo mwaka wa 2013 ile tunaitanga immunization coverage, idadi ile ambayo inafikiwa, yani full immunization, unapata chanjo zote zile za watoto. Wakati huu tulikuwa na 67% na sasa hii tushafika 91%.
The budget allocation for essential medicines and medical supplies for the county has also peaked from a meager 18.5 million pre-devolution to 75.3 million post-devolution.
Huduma kama vile picha ile ya CT scan ilikuwa ni mpaka mtu atumwe Mombasa. Huduma kama zile tunazitanga laparoscopy, surgery hazingefanyika hapa kwa county. Huduma kama vile skin grafting, huduma kama urology services, oncology, huduma zile za saratani, kutibu mambo na saratani.
The gains in Taita Taveta and the establishment of the first ever level 5 hospital in the county, along with the establishment of the Kenya Medical Training College, Kitale branch.
In terms of what we call health infrastructure, we have actually achieved, according to the WHO report, we have achieved what we call the facility versus population density. We have more than enough. But there are some counties like Turkana, West Pokot, that have not been able to achieve that.
However, despite the numerous gains made, the health sector has faced its fair share of challenges, with over 100 strikes since the inception of devolution.
The decision makers who never seek services in the public sector are the ones who must make a decision. Unfortunately, by virtue of delay doing so, we are left on our own, and we now go back to the constitution where it gives people a latitude to go on strike.
Issues such as a limited budget and an ongoing power struggle between the national and the county governments continue to hinder the smooth implementation of the unit.
Before devolution, there was employment of healthcare workers that was progressive. But it's all evident that the first time we are seeing a country where there are healthcare workers who have been trained and have graduated. We have, for the last 10 years, more than 5,000 doctors, more than 10,000 clinical officers, more than 20,000 nurses who have graduated from different institutions, but then the government has not have any plans to employ them.
And as the country embarks on the 11th year of devolution, stakeholders in the sector are advocating for the undertaking of an all-round audit to not only record the gains and challenges witnessed in the implementation of devolution, but also to identify areas of improvement. Zainab Mohammed, T47.
Thank you, Zainab, for that report, which sets the precedence or the pace for the conversation tonight, or rather a focus on matters devolved health. Now, Interior PS Raymond Omolo has this evening revealed the significant impact of the anti-government demonstrations held by the opposition. The PS highlighted that the protests resulted in extensive damage to public property and also caused loss of lives and injuries. The statistics were revealed on a day that the police service was again on the spot for allegedly killing one person in Nairobi's Eastlands area. Our reporter Eric Kamunya with the breakdown.
Even as the government and opposition trade blame games over cases of alleged police brutality, Principal Secretary in the Interior Ministry Raymond Omolo has issued a statement detailing the police suffered losses. To the PS, since the start of the protests, some 305 law enforcement officers have been seriously injured, with one officer dying while in the line of duty. The National Police Service lost 158 vehicles as well as 9 police stations which have either been burnt or severely damaged. Civilians also suffered the brunt of the protests as more than 850 shops and business premises were broken into and looted, while 199 buildings were destroyed, with various public utilities worth billions of shillings being vandalized. A total of 156 cases of assault and violent robberies were also reported, while several non-protesting motorists were robbed of their belongings, who blocked 69 roads during the demonstrations. Meanwhile, as the blame games persist, police officers have today been involved in clashes with enraged protesters at Kiamaiko who are protesting the killing of a young man who was apparently shot dead by police officers outside his residence.
Wanajua waizi ni wakina nani, waizi wanaiba wanakulanga na hawa. Waizi gonga waizi washika, waizi wanatembea free hapa ndani, hawashikwi. Wanaua na bunduki, waizi wako na bunduki na ni hawa wanawauzia marisasi. Ni hawa wanawapatia hizo mabunduki, lakini wanakuja kuua ndugu yetu bure mwenye hajawahi fanyia mtu kitu. Tunataka justice. Tunataka justice. Na hii government yetu ya Ruto, kama mumeambia askari watuue ovyo ovyo, askari hakuwa anaua hapa Kiamaiko, lakini saa hii kwanza mumewapea authority ya kuua askari, wanatuua hapa bure. Wanapiga watoto wetu bure. Kama kweli kuna haki, haki ifanyike. Tunataka haki sisi. Tunataka haki sisi.
The angry youth barricaded the road as they protested the tragic killing of one of their own by the police, with some residents saying that his only fault was speaking up for a young man who was being arrested by police.
Si post ya haki, aiangali wananchi, aihudumii wananchi wa hapa, community hapa ya Kiamaiko. Hii ni ya biashara. Wanazoea kukunywa madamu za vijana wa Kiamaiko. Wanaua watu bila hatia. Wanaitwa Galano wako Galano. Tunataka justice ya huyo kijana, ameuliwa bure bila hatia, ametoka kwa nyumba yake, akapata kijana amefungwa pingu, akasema usimwizi muachilieni, wakamgeukia wakampiga risasi.
It remains unclear why the young man was killed, but the tragic instance only adds fuel to an already raging fire. Kamunya Mwangi, TV47.
Indeed, let's now delve into matters business. Now, tax interventions aimed at the e-mobility sector should decrease overall costs of such vehicles by 20%. President William Ruto says with a conscious effort at restructuring financing policies, the government could increase revenue generated by the boda sector by at least 400 million shillings a month.
The boda sector contributes about 100,000 shillings to the national revenue per month. The government reckons this could be increased by 40% if certain taxes and policy regulations are adjusted.
Tumeondoa ushuru kama sehemu 5 ili kusaidia sekta hiyo kukua. Ya kwanza tumesema VAT kwa bodaboda ambayo inatumia stima, tutaondoa 16% VAT ile iko juu yake.
On top of the cost that you have reduced,
we're going to partner with you in creating the charging stations and reducing the licenses, ile cost ya licenses ambao each station is required to pay, and the rates applicable to them.
President William Ruto says the migration from fossil-fueled motorbikes to electric motorbikes will be fully realized in a few years, and the country will have 200,000 e-bikes on the roads by the end of 2024.
Nataka kutumia sekta ya bodaboda kuzalisha ajira. Kwa sasa hivi tuko na pikipiki ambazo zinatumia stima kama zile zinatengenezwa hapa haifiki 2,000 Kenya.
If we do roll out 30%, we are working on 30% accelerated boda by 2025, which will give us up to 500,000 motorbikes on the road.
He says domestic financing architecture interventions will bring down costs in the e-mobility sector, and that the government would push for the adoption of climate-conscious modes of transportation. For Kenya to reach carbon neutrality by the year 2050, the e-mobility sector must grow by 10% per annum. To this effect, the president says e-bikes will grow from the current 2,000 to 200,000 by the end of next year. Hibak Said for TV47.
Thank you so much, Hibak, for that report on e-mobility. Time now for sports news. Dennis Otieno is here. Good evening. What do you have for us tonight?
Good evening to George Maringa. Tonight we have a lot lined up for you in the world of sports. We shall be telling you how the national under-20 team Chipu performed when they were playing in Matters Rugby. Also, heated Kenya Nyanza Secondary School games. We'll be telling you which teams emerged victorious and the results that were posted in that competition. Those among many other sporting stories